Hi, I'm Alan Ross, and we are at Distributech 2025. We've got interviews with thought leaders, and we'd love for you to see what we've done here. Hey, thanks for joining us. Okay, my next guest is Hassan Zaheer, someone that I've done this a number of times with. I feel like you're a partner. I feel like I reveal everything about what we're doing and you reveal everything about what you're doing. But I just love PTR. You are an executive editor. There's only 7 of us. I'm one. And that means you'll kind of be directing us into where we go, be part of the team that does that. But you also have a byline in our magazines. And I say you, PTR does. Sometimes you write. Yeah. I send it out to you, but Sundus and other people write. Brilliant stuff. Thank you for what you do, because you have a grasp of the marketplace that I think few other people have. That's why we want you to have your own byline on perspectives. But yeah,
we appreciate our partnership, Ali, a lot. Thank you for working with us.
Because you have that look at the marketplace, the industry has been changing. And when I say industry, I'm talking about power industry. It's the vendors here. It's the big boys, Hitachi Energy, Siemens Energy, GE Vernova. They all kind of post, but so is everybody else here. And so is the marketplace changing.
Yeah.
What is, in the last 5 years, we've seen tons of change, more than we've seen in 50 before. Where do you think we are today as an industry?
I think as an industry, first of all, thank you for having me. As an industry, I feel we're at the crossroads of change more than what we've ever seen in our industry before. And it's supposed to continue. There are a few things which are changing massively or have changed massively over the last 5 to 10 years. The first one is digitalization of the power grid. I think you talked about it last time as well, that going from normal phones to smartphones. Now the grid is going through that, especially on the distribution side.
Right.
The other one, which is a long-term trend, but also very important, is the overall energy transition, going from centralized to decentralized generation, right? And that has impact on the grid. And that includes also things like EV chargers coming online, and the grids have to adopt. Like digitalization is because of that. And the third one that I see more recently, there was a report published yesterday by IEA as well, that there is an increasing demand of electricity. We're using electrification as a way to decarbonize the world. Yeah. And what that means is that, we have more and more electricity requirements from things like EVs, for example, not to mention data centers, right? Yeah. So the demand is increasing as well. So all what that means is that the impact on power grid sector from, as you said, from the utilities to the big boy manufacturers to the tier 2 manufacturers, everyone is huge, and the industry is changing for the better.
So speaking of that, I know the evolution of PTR, and you and I have talked about this, the great need in the marketplace, especially at tier 2. The big boys all have people on staff that think they know what they're doing, and they're in a direction. And many of them have a very clear picture of where they're going to fit in it, whether that's Siemens Energy or Hitachi Energy or GE Vernova. And we work with all of them, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think people struggle with is how to go to market.
Yeah.
Because they need data about information about the market, not data, but they need information about wise information to then say, oh, now how do I do that? Talk a little bit about the evolution of PTR from mostly strictly research to using that research to develop strategies for people.
So, Alan, as you said, the industry is going through massive change, and a lot of the companies want to make the most out of this opportunity. They don't want to miss out on the opportunity that is available today. But to be able to do it properly, you need good data. You need good data to make decisions. Otherwise, you're shooting in the dark, where you're taking that one data point that someone told you about something in the conference and basing your whole business on that, right? That's millions of dollars worth of decisions. So that's where we come in. Like, I feel really privileged that we're able to do this for our clients today, able to guide them in terms of their growth journey as they make these decisions. So we start with the data, good quality data on the market, on how the markets are changing, how they're evolving. What does the future look like based on our predictions and the research that we do? But then the next step to that is how do you actually implement that,
Right.
right? And there now, as PTR, we're working with the clients to create that go-to-market plan as well, right? How do you go to a certain country, right? A lot of the clients have ambitions to grow into new markets right now.
Right.
How do you go there? Who are the customers? How do you get registered as a vendor to those customers? What could be the channels that you use today, right? How do you position yourself into that market? How do you do your own marketing problem, right? So we are now at a stage we're helping our customers with the step 2 as well on what do you do with that data? How do you make that strategy? And then beyond that, working with partners like you on their actual marketing and positioning as well, that, how do you position yourself properly in those markets? That's kind of where we are at today. And as I said, I really feel privileged that we're able to do this work.
It's funny because I've thought about this, knowing where you all are going. I wrote a little diagram, and we'll make a power panel of it. But in the diagram, I've got different, like this and this and this, like Venn diagram, right? Yeah. In the center of the diagram, I wondered what was there. I didn't want it to be a person. I wanted something about the center. You know what's at the center? Their story.
Yes.
You're going to be able to tell, because most people don't even know their own story. They know what they do. They know what they're good at, but they don't know how to tell that story to the market, whether that's a growth in another culture or whether that's to the existing markets. Sometimes they don't even know what level, if they'll go to the maintenance department, they get kicked out. They should have been one level above. There's a lot to be said about telling their story. That's excellent. So good luck with that. But pitch me. Tell me what I need, because I'm somebody that I've got a tier 2 product. It is proven in the marketplace. I'm not new. I'm not a startup, but it's proven in the marketplace. And I want to go to the Middle East, or I want to expand into Europe. I do pretty well in the United States, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Pick what my problem and solve it for me.
I think, as I said, the first one is that you need to understand how the market is evolving, where there might be a gap where you need to position your company, right? It's not as simple as saying, I want to sell more into the US. US is 3,500 utilities and more, a lot of private customer. So that's the first one. The second thing is you talked about storytelling, it's an art as old as time. But to tell your story effectively, you have to understand who are you telling the story to?
Yeah, right.
And then also you have to understand yourself as well, that where do you fit in that bigger picture, right? And their understanding of the technologies, understanding of where they get positioned in the market is extremely important. And I feel PTR today, having done this for more than a decade now, is in the best position to understand these really complicated solutions on what they are and how they solve the utilities problem, because we have that deep technical expertise. But also we have a very good knowledge of the business models out there and how the value chain is structured. So sometimes a lot of these tier 2 guys are having to not just market to the utilities, but also up in the value chain to adopt their solutions, right? Yeah. How do you effectively do that? How do you effectively tell your story and how your product solves their problem? That's where we come in and we can help the customers, because we feel we're in a unique position, understanding the value chain, understanding the market and business models, as well as understanding the technologies and how they kind of fit over there.
That is a huge need in the marketplace right now. It's also a huge job.
Yes.
That people have to give up control. They have to say, "Oh, tell me." They have to. You're at a C level for the most part, because you're not going to get a vice president of marketing to come along for that ride. It's going to be a CMO or a CEO, because in many instances it's uncomfortable what they have to do. And they can come to every conference the industry puts on and have no success because they don't know how to tell their story. They come into a booth, they don't tell their story. It happens a lot. I see it because
I have to say though, not all VPs of marketing. I think some of them are also very big. Great vision, of course.
You're going to suck up to a VP of marketing. So
it's true. You're right. I know some really good ones, but you're right. Very often the not strategic decisions are at the C level, of course.
And I was responsible. If it's a VP of marketing, he should be the CMO because he thinks right.
Yes, that we can agree on.
Look ahead. Look at the industry. Not just where they are today. Where do you think just pick the utilities? Where are they going, and how are people going to respond to where they're going? I'll use this analogy. They asked Wayne Gretzky, who was a great hockey player, why he was such a good goal scorer. And he said, because everybody skates to where the puck is, and I skate to where the puck is going to be. Where's the puck going to be?
So I think I'll make a broader statement and then I'll go down onto the regional level, because different regions might be different. I think in general, power grids are going to become extremely important. They used to be just a system in the back that works. Now they're going to be center of energy policy because everyone realizes the importance of that. I think in North America, I feel that there's going to be continued focus on grid modernization. The grids are old, they need to be upgraded, but also a lot of focus on digitalization of the grids that is needed in this market. And in general, I feel North America, there is a lot of push towards that as well. Europe is a little bit different, driven by their requirements to be more and more independent and having more clean energy resources. They are going to need to invest in the grid, especially on the distribution side. Now, there are countries in Europe which already had kind of overcapacity in their grids. For example, Germany, right? But I see that changing in the future as well. As more and more load comes online, for example, EVs, they're going to need to upgrade their grid as well and also go for more monitor and control grid on the distribution side as well. We're going to see that trend happening in Europe as well as an increased focus on interconnection between the European countries.
Yeah.
Middle East, I feel, is a little bit unique. Middle East, North Africa region. GCC is very much driven by the massive infrastructure projects. That means they have to expand their grid to support the electricity requirements. But also, I feel in GCC, there's now a new kind of consideration, and that's going to be the case for the next 10 years, that, they're going to interconnect different GCC countries as well. Kind of like what NSOE is in Europe as well. So that's where GCC is. North Africa, I feel there's going to be a time in the near future when they are going to become the providers of energy from North America to Europe, if we can figure out those HVDC interconnections. But I feel a lot of this change is already being put in motion. We're just going to see it evolving over the next 10 years, just like we have done over the last 10 years on different other technologies.
A continuation of the same but different. That's that's about the way it's going to say that. Last question for you. You're in Dubai now, so you made the commitment to move to the Middle East, and I like what you said about the interconnectivity, because it behooves everybody to rely on everybody, right? It's the collaborative model that works there. I even see that the Saudis are now willing to participate more than they have past. Brilliant for the Middle East. The Middle East, and is it the Middle East Energy Show? Is that what it is?
Yes.
And that's next week, right? Or sometime.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going up at the next. Of course. Up one of the big events for us.
Talk a little bit about what that event does and what you guys are going to be doing there.
Yeah. I think over the passage of time, Middle East has become a very interesting spot from a power sector perspective as well. That show used to be relatively smaller, but like any other power grid event, it has evolved to be much bigger than what it used to be. It has kind of become the hub for a lot of the European manufacturers, and a lot of the manufacturers out of APEC, especially India, to kind of meet over there and then, do business. So I see a lot of big players who are going to be present next week. We are going to be there meeting with a lot of different customers. We are participating in presentations as well, like, sharing some of the thoughts and latest research from our side at the event. But mostly it's really about meeting the people in that part of the world. Some of them are our customers. Some of them we want them to be our customers.
So we can't do this in April there. I wanted to, but I'm committed to a family vacation in London with my son that lives in London. So who wins? My son in London. Family should always come first.
Absolutely.
But so any information that you give me or Ante is going to go there, I'd really like some information about how to reach out to them and do interviews, because I think what you just said, now about 34% of our readers are European.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on in Europe that we want to report on, and there's a lot of American companies, tier 2 and tier 3 companies, that want to explain global. So they want to be exporter. You hear that as well, yeah. So, we want to be much more U.S. or North America, Europe, and the Middle East. It's the fastest growing part of our customer base. It's interesting.
Absolutely. There's a lot of change in that market as well. A lot of requirement for good storytelling, as you said, over there as well, as those companies grow and bigger in size too. So they also have to say their narrative out loud, right? And that's where I think your place is definitely there in those markets as well.
Excellent. So we'll continue to work together. Thank you for joining our executive editorial team, because really I have several people that I've learned to trust and trust because you're talking about the future. We're talking about what things are going to be. And you bring a great deal of, for me, it's a comfort knowing that I'm not out there alone. saying, hey, let's write in November of 2026, let's do the interview or an article on whatever it is, breaker technology. And there's nothing happening on breakers. So we'll be working together. You're doing more of these, and thank you very much for everybody.
I appreciate this partnership. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Now, I have to tell you this. The next issue is May.
Yeah.
You're doing a write-up for May?
Yes.
Okay, my email is coming to you saying, hey, here's the deadlines, but we have plenty of time.
I am ready. Happy to contribute.
All right.
Thank you, Alan.